Welcome back, everybody. This is Tuplex, and let's continue our Factorio playthrough. In this episode, I would like to get oil set up. So as you can see, I'm already crafting some of the items that we're going to need to configure that. I'm going to start with 5 oil refineries. I'm making 20 chemical plants, which is probably more than we need to get started with, but I'll have some extras on hand. And I'm going to craft 3 refineries. I'm sorry, 3 pump jacks. The reason I'm not doing more pump jacks than that in a regular game, without the extreme resources mod, I would probably want to do more, because each oil refinery can handle up to 2 oil per second. And usually the oil patches are not that saturated. In the case of the insane resources mod, you can see here that the yield on an oil patch is 133,000, which works out to over 1,000 oil per second. So we really don't need too many pump jacks in this case. And it starts out very high because as the resource depletes over time, oil never actually runs out completely. You just lose oil per second. It just slowly decreases down to a minimum of 0.1. So it starts off very high in this case. So we won't need very many pump jacks at all. In fact, 1 might even be enough with this mod running, but I'll put down 3 just to be sure. So let's take a look at our map. We have plenty of petroleum right here. And we'll need to decide where to do our setup. So we're going to have smelting to the north and the south of here. This is not going to be enough room to set up a very big petroleum operation. So what I'm thinking we could do is set up our petroleum down here below the main bus. In fact, we could probably move it over here to where the area is clear and there's not so many trees, because we do want to keep trees around as much as we can because they help contain pollution. So what we'll do is we'll put our pump jacks over there and we'll pipe it over this way to do the processing. Okay. So while we wait for all of that to be ready, we are going to need a lot of pipes to set up our petroleum. So I would like to get some pipe production going. And what I'll do is I'll just set it up over here in line with our ammunition production. As soon as these 2 assembly machines get done. And what I've been doing in the past is, actually, you know what, I'll set it up to the right of it. I don't want it to, we'll keep our ammo separate from the other stuff. So we'll set up some pipes, and in the past, in my last playthrough, I only made straight pipes. Because the underground pipes are pretty fast if you have enough straight pipes in your inventory. But the issue I ran into with that is that a lot of the time I didn't have enough iron on hand. So I think what I'll do this time is I'll set up regular iron pipes and the straight pipes and the curved pipes as well to be automated. Okay. So let's get that set up. Yeah. So we'll do it like this. Fast inserters, because this has a crafting time of 0.5, and those take 1 iron plate apiece. And I'll set this to make, I think these stack in 50s, so let's say 200 straight pipes. And then directly next to that, we'll set up our underground pipes. Now those also need iron plate. So what would be the best way to get iron plate over there? Here's a thought. How about this? I think this will work, no? And let's see, those are half a second too. I'll put fast inserters, although they're not gonna be able to go fast enough. Okay, so while these underground pipes are being produced, we're not going to get any more straight pipes so once this box gets filled, excuse me, then this box will get filled. Okay, and we'll put a light. I do have lights. Let me put those on my hotbar. Okay, and we'll put a light there so we can see what we're doing. And we'll limit this to 100, let's say. Okay, so we'll come back and pick those up in a few minutes. The other thing I've done offline, as you may have noticed, I set up a few storage chests here to store alien artifacts. Here I've got wood. Put some more wood in there. Just a place to put some of the miscellaneous things that we collect over time. I'm going to grab ammunition. I think that's enough for now. And then down here I've set up my second hotbar to have gun turrets and grenades. And I think we're going to go make use of those right now. Well, let me get off of this belt here. Sorry about that. Because we've got a biter nest down here, which is fairly close to our main base. So I'd like to go take that out. And once that one's gone, then it doesn't look like there's anything else close by to our pollution cloud. So we should be fairly safe for a while. And let me get another radar going as well. Our current radar is in the center of this square, so it's over here someplace. So let me I'll put this other radar right here so that we can start to scan a larger area. And that's going to add a considerable drain to our power. You can see here we're using 2.5 megawatts for radar. But that's okay. I think right now it's a good idea for us to have more visibility of what's going on around us and make sure that we don't get surprised by biter nest spawns. Okay. So let's run over and take care of that base to our southwest. And then once that one is gone, we'll go back and start setting up our oil production. Okay. Now I've got my combat stuff set up here on the second hotbar, so I'm just going to hit X, and the X key will swap your hotbar sets from one to the other. So that way I can just use my 1, 2, and 3 keys to access turrets and grenades and repair packs, which is pretty convenient. And I think we're getting lucky this time. It just happens to be daylight. Oh, that reminds me, our Logistics 2 research has finished, which means we can start on trains. And what do we need to do? Robots. Because I'd like to do robots fairly soon too. Well, we need electric engines, I know that. Let's start working towards robotics first, because we don't really have a strong need for trains at the moment. We've got more than enough resources. Okay, so it looks like this is not actually a biter base, but just some worms. And there's a big worm, there's 3 big worms, and a small worm. So I'm going to leave those alone because big worms are hard to kill. They're fairly dangerous, and right now with gun turrets, we have to get within their spitting range in order to reach them. And I only have, regular heavy armor. We don't have any shields or anything yet, so it would be kind of risky. I don't want to risk getting killed, and worms will not attack our base, so they're really not a threat to us either. So I'm just going to leave them alone. Hopefully that's okay with you guys. Okay, I think flight is next. Yep, that'll allow us to get robots. Okay, so we'll go back over here and start with our oil setup. I am going to place one of my gun turrets here next to the radar because the radar is a likely target. Okay. All right, so we'll start by setting up our pump jacks. I'm going to make, well, I'll just make all these storage tanks. What I like to do with the pump jacks is put them directly into storage tanks. Okay, and for 3, I guess we'll just take these 3 here. Okay, and I've added pipes to my hotkeys as well. So I'll just run those all to the same place like that. Put a row of straight pipes, and then I'll put 4 storage tanks to collect and buffer the oil. Okay, and then the only thing that we need here is power. So let's get that hooked up. And I'll just put a single light there. Okay. And we have oil. These tanks are going to fill up pretty fast. All right. So we'll let that start to accumulate while we plan the rest of our production. Okay, now down here, this is where we were going to have 3 steel belts and 1 blue circuit belt. Okay, and that was going to be our last bus for belts. And I also want to leave a space of 4 for pipes. Okay, so this will be kind of like the upper limit of our oil processing. And then we can start to set it up here, and we can expand to the east and we can expand to the south as necessary. There's really nothing to the south of us except for trees, nor to the east of us. Now we can start to see that we're finding some pretty big resource patches, which is good to know. So when we need more iron, more copper, we know where to go. And we're also starting to see some pretty large biter nests, which we'll have to be wary of. Okay, so let's start up with oil. So I'm going to set up 5 refineries. I'm just going to put them in a row like this, leaving 1 space between each. One power pole. And we'll put some lights. And I'm going to craft some more of the large power poles to bring in our main power supply. Bring this up as far as I can. Looks like right there. So I'll place 1 there and 1 there. Okay. So these are powered up. We're going to set these for basic oil processing, since that's the only recipe we have at the moment. And later we'll change them to advanced processing. We'll have to bring in water as well. And let me see if I can remember which one of these turns into water. I think it's the one on the right side. I may be wrong, but I think that's it. So we'll set up this one on the left side to bring in our oil. And we'll connect them like that, and then we'll run this line up here. Change over my bars again. Okay, and then we'll use this top line to bring our crude oil from our storage tanks. Okay, we've got flight done. Let's see what else we should be working on. Can't do that one yet. Let's do circuit network. That'll be a good one to have once we have robots. Now in the next Factorio patch, which will be, at the time that we're doing this video, the next update will be 0.13. They're supposed to have a feature that allows you to just hold down your button and drag to pick up or to lay down underground pipe, as well as underground belts. I think that'll be a very nice update. Make things very convenient. Okay, tell you what, let's start going north now. Okay, circuit network is done. Let's do advanced electronics. You know what, let's do the inserter bonus. We don't have any of those yet, and those are very necessary, I think. Inserter bonus allows you to move more than one item at a time between containers. Okay, so you can see these tanks are almost full, and let's make sure that our oil pipeline is full. Looks like that's working well. Now that we have circuit networks, I want to show you a little trick I like to do as a way to visually monitor our oil supply. Let me pick up some copper so I can make some more of those red circuits. Okay, and this is pretty simple. Basically what we'll do is we'll just set up, let's see, I'll just set up one light actually, and we'll set that light to go on when our oil supply is above 8,000 K, let's say. Okay, we'll do stack size 2. So all we do is connect the tanks, and then we can connect those tanks to the light. And then if you click on the light, you can set the wire condition where you indicate under what condition you want that light to turn on. So we'll go to fluids, we'll select crude oil. And so you can see right now if crude oil is greater than 0, the light turns on. Now each one of these holds 2,500, that's 10,000 total. I just want this light to be on if the tanks are pretty full, right? So I'm going to change that number to 8,000. Okay, and it's still on because we have almost 10,000. But this way when we walk by, we can just take a look, and if that light turns off, we know that we're running low on oil for whatever reason. I don't expect that to happen in this case because we have such a huge supply of crude oil coming out of those pump jacks, but that's something that you can do pretty easily with fluids to keep an eye on your supply. Okay, so we've got oil coming in, and now we need to set up our outputs. So let's do that. And the way I like to do this is I go 3, 2, and 1. Like this. Okay, that one's done. I'm just looking for other research that we can do. I guess we'll start doing railway. Okay, and then we connect these. I think I'd like to put my storage over here. All right, so let's clear away some trees. All right, 3 grenades will do the job. All right, so let's set up 4 tanks for each type of fluid, which means we will need 12. Okay, let me grab some more iron. One more, I think we'll do it. Okay, so then we just hook these up laterally by connecting them like so. Okay, we'll do automated transportation. Okay, and then we'll set up storage tanks for each of these fluids. So there's petroleum. I'm gonna leave more space. This will be light oil. And we'll set up heavy oil over here. How does that look? Okay, that looks good. And then we can set up the same monitoring as we did over there. So we'll need 5 wires for each one. That's 15. We've got 6, so 5. Okay. So I'll just put a light here next to each one to tell us when they're almost full. Okay, and rail signals. I think that's the last bit of research we need. All right, first let's hook up these tanks so that they can start going to work. There we go. We will need a power pole for each one. I'll just use small poles for those. Like I said, I like to keep those handy. That probably wasn't the best way to do that. Let's there we go. That's a little bit neater. Okay. And one more to hook those up. Okay, so let's set the condition on this one. Let's set this up so that the lights go on if we have a problem. Okay, so in this case, a problem would be that we are running low on petroleum. So let's set that to 4,000. Okay, so whenever we have less than 1,000 in each tank, that light's gonna come on. For the case of oil, we want these to turn on when we have too much. So let's set those to 8,000. All right, so when they start to get full, I'm going to shift right click and shift left click to copy the settings. And then I'll just change that to heavy oil. Okay, so that light's on now because we have a low supply of petroleum, which will get taken care of fairly soon. And this one is on because, or I'm sorry, this one is off and that one is off because we don't have too much oil collecting yet. Okay. All right. Then our next step will be to set up chemical plants to take care of the oil for us. Although, now that I think about it, I think I'll come back and do that later, because what I'd like to do is get plastic and batteries set up so that we can start to do red circuits and get some of the higher levels of technology that we need. Electric furnaces, robots, that sort of thing. So for now, I'll just let the oil accumulate in those tanks. It'll be a while before they get full. And in the meantime, we can start to take advantage of the petroleum that we're making. So we'll do that in the next episode. We'll start to get sulfuric acid, plastic going, so that we can start to go up the tech tree and make red circuits and things like that. So until then, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you soon.